You're listening to the Fig Culture Podcast, the show that helps cold climate gardeners bend the rules, push zone boundaries, and grow figs anyways. I'm your host, Stephen Biggs. Welcome to the Fig Culture Podcast, and today we're in Toronto to chat with Helena Moncrieff, and she tells us the story of Francesco and his fig tree, one of the stories from her book, The Fruitful City. Francesco's towering backyard fig tree became the heart of an annual neighborhood tradition. Each fall, neighbors, friends, and even strangers would gather to help perform the ritual of tipping the tree over to protect it for the winter, or later, as it got bigger, to help him wrap it. Lots of heavy work, but a shared act of growing food and cultural heritage. This episode is a rewind of an episode that aired on the Food Garden Life show in 2020. Now, here's my chat with Helena. When I was reading The Fruitful City, I just absolutely loved your story about Francesco. And I wonder if you can just tell our listeners a little bit about Francesco.
Francesco was a guy who'd come from Calabria, and he was setting up a home for his family, as many immigrants have done, before sending for them. And he bought a plot of land near Bathurst and St. Clair with a house on it. It was a corner lot. And the one thing that he really wanted to have was something from home, which was a fig tree. Now, figs don't, this is going to sound silly saying to you, but figs don't naturally grow in this part of the world. You have made it so, Stephen. But he wanted this because this is what he had in Italy. And so he worked very hard to get this tree planted in his yard and grew it quite successfully. Now, you probably know, and many of your listeners will know, that you can bury a fig tree in the winter. And this is a made in Canada thing, as I understand it. So Francesco each year would get the men of the neighborhood together to help him, and they would dig a trough as long as the tree was high, wrap the tree up in burlap and tarps, tie it all up tight, and then dig under the root ball until they could tip it into this grave. They'd bury it where it would stay for the winter, and then reverse the process in the spring and bring it back up to life. As the tree got taller in this Toronto lot, he ran out of room to make a trough big enough to hold this tree.
Wow.
So he had to improvise, and he wasn't going to give up the fig tree. So instead, he put cinder blocks around the base of it, wrapped it all up again, surrounded it in plastic, and dropped a pipe through a hole in the top to let the air escape so it wouldn't get too much condensation. And he installed a space heater. So in the winter, as soon as the temperature dropped below 5 degrees, the heater would turn on to keep this fig warm through or at least safe through the winter, because he couldn't bury it into this dormant state. So he was just coddling this fig tree, making sure that it was going to survive. And he had neighbors all around him who were quite dependent on that fig tree for their supplies because he was very generous in his sharing. And so everybody liked having his figs. This is what he did. Do you want me to tell you what happened?
I do. I don't know if it's going to be sad or happy, but let's go ahead.
Well, Francesco he became quite elderly, and his fig was taller and taller and still very bountiful. And he had never let his son, or rather his son had never helped him wrap up this fig. It was a thing his dad did. I talked to his son but in the research for my book. His son had never participated in this. This was the thing that his dad did with his buddies. And as a kid growing up, your parents are never cool. Of course you are, but we never think our parents are very cool, and they're kind of an embarrassment. And he wanted nothing to do with that stuff. In any event, his father was ill, and he was dying. And it was the last they didn't know, but it was probably his last winter.
Mm.
And so the fig tree needed to be taken care of, and Francesco wanted to help. And his son said, I don't know, this like it doesn't seem safe to me. But the father insisted on going up the ladder and making sure that he wrapped this fig the way he wanted it done. And that was the only time the son got to help him.
Oh.
And they had a neighbor come over to help as well, and they looked at each other and they were just shaking their heads. And finally, the Francesco, he just couldn't do anymore. He had to get down. And that winter, the tree wrapped carefully, Francesco died.
Oh.
So the family wrapped everything up in the house. They had to sell the house. They took everything out, and he'd had plumber's pipe all over the place to hold up his beans. He had a dozen fruit trees by this point in his yard. So they cleaned up as much of it as they could. But the one thing his son said he just couldn't do was turn off the heat on that fig tree.
Mm.
And so when the new owners bought the house, he told them, this is what we've done. We're at peace with it now. But there's this fig tree out here, and it has a heater on it. I can't turn it off, but it's your house now. You do what you will. And so the new owners were faced with this choice, dilemma: provide perpetual care for this fig or pull the plug.
And?
Wow. Do you really want to know the end?
I don't know, but of course I have to hear it now.
They kept it on through the winter, and in the spring they unwrapped the tree, and the owner was really quite astounded by the layers and layers that were under there, and he's peeling back all these layers. And so that summer, I had the privilege of talking to them, and I got to see the fig tree. They did have figs, and so it was a big deal for the family. Oh, we got to see what all the fuss is about for this fig tree. And they had neighbors around them saying, don't cut that tree down. You have to keep it. You need the figs. And so when they first took it apart, they thought, well, this is nuts. We're not doing this. And so the owner had thrown away all the bindings and stuff. By the end of the summer, they decided they wanted to keep it.
Ah.
So he went off to find all of the products he'd need to get, a space heater and the piping and all the tarps. And he saw the cost, and he just bought a new house and figured, I can't do it. I can't afford this.
Oh.
And so the tree did not get the care it needed through that winter. And then I don't know what happened to it after that.
Okay.
But you can imagine yourself what happens to a fig tree exposed to the cold of a Canadian winter without its shrouds, without being buried, and without its space heater.
Yes, I'm sure there was quite a bit of dieback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's so striking about that is, first of all, there's somebody bringing the taste of home to his new place, but then the way he rallied the community around that tree, I find that so beautiful.
It was really a touchstone for that community. First, it was his buddies from all over coming together to wrap this tree up. Secondly, he had friends of like mind, and they would all bring little slips. So they were grafting onto this tree, and he'd give them pieces to graft onto something else. So the provenance of that tree, even though it probably started from Italy, I mean, these were back in the days when you could slip something across the border like that.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely cannot do that now. It's not a good idea. But the tree probably came from Calabria, but it would have had slips on it, probably from Greece, Portugal, Spain, you name it. So it was quite an interesting tree in that regard. And yeah, he not only did he share the bounty with his neighbors, but anyone who passed by, he would be happy to talk to them and, cut a piece of a fig and let them taste it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you think about all the people who maybe didn't know anything about gardening or fruit trees or like fig trees. Most of us don't know that much about fig trees unless we are regular listeners of your show. You have this guy here who knows all about it, who's learned how to grow a fig tree in Canada just by his own wild. So what an opportunity.
What an opportunity. And I suspect he inspired a whole generation of fig growers.
I think he did. I think he did.
Hmm.
And his son said there are probably offsprings of this tree all over the neighborhood because he would give a scion to anyone who asked for it. A little slip here, a little slip there. So she had offspring all over the place, that tree.
Wow. Helena, thank you so much for sharing that story with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
You're listening to the Fig Culture Podcast. I'm Stephen Biggs.